Be fine with 2,000 for a trustee, 3,000 for village president, and then I think we should put COLAs on too.
You have to adopt specific measures, I believe. I don't think you can open-endedly do a COLA adjustment. I would be happy to research that, but I think that's what I recall.
That's
On
here.
chart and retail, we do an annual increase based on COLA.
I think they adopted all of those, and I'll double check.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, because, I think that the amount that was intended in 1976 is, in today's dollars, is, I think that's a reasonable amount, and so.
That'd be like 1G, for example. I mean, I'm telling you that from historical facts. I've
That'd be what?
run the CPI metrics on that. That'd be 1G.
What's one?
That's one G.
Option
Oh, option one G,
Oh.
oh, okay.
That would be the historical equivalents, relatively
Right,
speaking.
right.
Well, you said it would be 5 times, then
So it'd be 3,600.
I mean, roughly.
Right. And then I think just, and maybe it doesn't need to be COLA, maybe it's 1%, per year, but then we just don't get to this,
Well, that's where you start
4
getting into like
years.
option 2F, for example. It takes yourself out 12 years, structured increases. And again, if your preference is to just adopt some sort of a COLA language, I would just want to do one more little bit of research on that before we came to the board.
Mhm.
But so if we do anything for 21, then that's only for the people who get
Elected next year
next
and
year.
beyond.
So those people would be getting
Next year and thereafter.
1,500 and, okay, so people would be phased in.
Mhm.
So you'd have, 3 years of inequality.
Phasing, yeah.
Or you could skip that and go right to 24.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I mean, I think we have to think about, it would be nice if we were unanimous on it, and that we were, clear in what our justification is, and unanimous on that too. I mean, I'm not sure, if the board's not unanimous on it, that I would wanna have something where I'm being attacked for supporting something even though I'm not gonna benefit from it, by other members of the board. So, I mean, I think we have to, that's my feeling.
I mean, so at this point, our options are what, to move a conversation to the board or do end with a recommendation?
Well, the recommended motion would include a preparation of a specific option.
Right, okay.
However, the committee could move the entire discussion to the committee of the whole, if that was really the preference, to build more consensus and make sure that nobody is overly exposed for this discussion.
I mean, I think we should, I would support like 2,000 a year for trustee and 2,600 or something for
Mhm.
president. I'm not crazy about the idea of phasing it in, but it is only a couple of years, so, but yeah, I think we should maybe bring it to the calendar. And I would suggest that it's something we decide if there's possibility for unanimity, it may not be, but it should be, because it's really something we're doing for future boards for most of us. It's not something that's gonna benefit
Yeah.
most of us,
So,
at
yeah,
least 4 of us, it's not gonna benefit.
the differential, you'd mentioned the difference between the regular trustee and the president, and the 2,000, 3,000 seems a little larger.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
there's supposedly more just the trustee. Yeah, I think taking it to the cow is, I mean, the research has been done, we've
Yeah.
had discussions, so we can help facilitate the
Yeah.
discussion that really is core
Right.
decisions, and you've got the numbers now. And you have, then if you have the discussion, then for the budget prep, you have,
Right.
so that's good.
And I can research the COLA question if you'd like as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So is
I mean, we're
that
not talking about anything for the 2021 budget anyhow, so. Oh, I guess.
You
we
gotta
might be-
adopt the
we might be-
ordinance.
You have to-
if we're
Oh,
gonna-
yeah.
The ordinance,
For 20, okay.
Okay, well, if that's the prevailing thought, if you wanna make that recommendation, I guess, and I'll move forward accordingly.
is it clear in here on the per diem? I mean, there was a lot of questions on the per diem.
There are no per diems.
And it says this here somewhere, or is it that we've checked?
So we're quoting compensation for the comparable communities, and we have confirmed that the compensation is as stated, there are no hidden per diems.
Okay, so we should probably.
We have
state
confirmed that, I can
that.
certainly.
Yeah, I would add that, because that was a question that came up.
Can we do the bond refunding really quickly before we get to public works? I did,
Do we have to, do we need to move
Oh,
the
sorry.
motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, so, we'll move the, trustee compensation discussion to the cow.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and then we'll adjourn JPNL at 6:44.
we'll call, finance, budget and finance to order. Once again, JPL's encroached on my time.
You better start first, I think.
I know, mine was,
This is
but
like,
that's not
why?
first. So I did talk to Mark a little bit today, I mean, we're really just substituting bonds with a lower interest rate for the current bonds, and it'll,
Very significant savings on it.
yeah,
Mhm.
I guess in terms of the TID, it's not gonna let us close any earlier, but it should just add to the balance when we do
Mhm.
close, so anyway, I'll move approval of does that have to go to the full board too?
It does.
Okay, I'll move that we move the bond refunding to the full board next possible meeting. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I'm adjourned.
Thank you.
Budget. Alrighty.
So you didn't
You're
even
on,
need,
Oh,
you
I'm
didn't
on,
even need
okay,
that.
call the public work committee.
6:46.
Right on, almost on time. All the members are here. Our first item is a discussion of the Conservation Committee's research on possible solid waste utility and recycling marketing opportunities and.
Hello.
Hi. I think everyone knows you.
Linda Frank.
All right.
Okay, so you have our summary and you have our latest draft of the proposal. So I just wanna go through pointing out a few things and kind of summarizing where we're coming from. The memo indicates that there's no history on this, but you might recall that the idea of municipal solid waste utility was raised by Mark Manuelson to the board as an opportunity to remove a charge from the property tax and recover those costs instead through utility. At the same time, the Conservation Committee had been exploring using such a utility, noting that it was a necessary first step to addressing Shorewood's goal of reducing waste 25% by 2025, which is a long-standing goal, and really is not being achieved at all. So any pricing incentive for reducing garbage to landfill cannot happen through the tax bill because any incentives based on very low rates for different service, well, what I'm trying to say is on a tax bill, everybody pays the same thing. But with the utility, you can pay, different customers can pay different amounts. This bill would be incorporated into the sewer and water bill. So residents would receive a quarterly, billing for it, which is estimated at a starting charge of $35 per quarter for 4,100 households. So that is moving from property tax to utility bill only. So that, and this proposal is broken down into 2 stages, with the first stage, in order to make sure that the pricing is correct and so on, would be 2 years of everybody pays the same rate, through the utility. And that's for 4,100 households. So tax bill.
Everyone pays
yeah.
the $35.
Correct, right. So the tax bills at the same time would see a decrease, but not by that same amount on a property by property basis.
Couldn't we do the different size, like, what if we kept it on the property tax, offered the option for the smaller garbage, and gave them compost for free? Couldn't we do that? And keep it on, because I think, that I'm feeling a little resistance from people about taking it off the property. Because people perceive it as you're charging me more, you know.
Well, and is just sort of like a general, I live here expectation, like the standard for service, or standard for home ownership or rental, is the garbage collection without, even though they're not paying more, it's just different. That's been the initial feedback that I've heard from residents, is the concern that.
They don't wanna get a new bill.
Right.
Well, they feel like we're not really gonna reduce and truthfully, we probably aren't, we probably,
Right.
Cause we have to raise property taxes a little bit every year, so it would go down $28.50 or whatever, their utility bill would go up $35, and we'd have to raise, that 28, there's also raises and all this other thing, so it might be like going down $8, so they'd say, oh, I only got this little reduction in property tax, and now you're charging me, $140 a year for garbage. It's just, it's a perception thing.
It would be currently, if you live in a $1 million house, your property tax rate, you're not paying 35 or 27, you're paying maybe 100, because it's on your property. It's based, and where if somebody's a senior in a smaller house, on their property value, they're paying less. So if you shift to a fee based on the unit, it becomes regressive for the smaller households, the smaller houses.
Or at least it's perceived as such.
Right.
Would we say that about our sewer and water bills? Probably not, just because we're used to getting them, right?
But that's it, everyone's used to how things are. Everyone likes the way, people are very attached to how things are.
Right.
And to go back to the idea of, adding compost, adding compost would, in theory, I think, reduce people's, waste and, require them to think about, everything that, this is garbage versus, which would get us to that, the goal. And I also think in comparing us to other communities within Milwaukee and the North Shore, like that's not something that a comparable community to Shorewood is doing, that to me feels like that is sort of moving the needle. And right now to compost is a commitment, and it's you need to sign up, and you need to, if you're paying official, and I sort of think that might be a good option of how to move the waste needle.
So you're talking about village-wide compost services are provided. Is that?
Well, if you took one of the skinny garbage pails, garbage containers,
Mm-hmm.
then you would get a compost, and you would,
Which you're saying like reduce your garbage size.
yeah.
And that if you did that, that you would then, like
we'd
as an
give you a
incentive,
we'd give you
we'd
compost.
we'd allow.
Which really, if you do compost,
Mhm.
you know, most people, I think, would be able to, I mean, I don't know that I could probably use a skinny one, you know, I mean, I think most, I don't know, how much garbage, do you
You-
fill the garbage cart? I
No,
don't
I
fill the
mean,
garbage
no,
cart.
I mean, the recycling, yes, but the garbage cart, no. And I mean, we don't compost and we would like to, we just need to make it happen. But, you know, I think, you know, I just think it is, it does have like a different sort of optic of, you know, I mean, because that is a big part of it, you know.
What?
Being able to compost, like it feels to me like we're making it I don't know, it just feels different than saying you're changing to a utility and saying we're gonna charge you, you know, based on usage. Which
Well,
I
mean, what, I guess it's a question too, if we did that, would we save enough I mean, the
Yeah,
labor,
that's-
I don't think we're gonna save anything in labor, I would guess.
Probably.
No, with a smaller cart.
Well, with a smaller cart, certainly no, but I mean, even if we did to bi-weekly, I don't think we would.
Oh,
I think that the answer to that is, that depends. If you had year-round bi-weekly collection,
Yeah,
then you could, certainly,